The shadows of the coal mine. Deep underground, in the heart of the earth, the coal mine stretched endlessly. The air was thick with soot and despair, and a faint flicker of dingy lantern light danced on the jagged rock walls. People of all ages worked tirelessly, swinging pickaxes with drained arms, inhaling dust that scorched their lungs, and dragging heavy carts of coal that rattled ominously on rusted tracks. Children as young as 8 worked alongside their elders, their small hands blistered and their bodies drained from the endless toil. Women, men, and teenagers alike moved in a mechanical rhythm, their energy as depleted as the veins of coal they chipped away at. They ate little, slept less, and dreamed not at all. Above them, 2 foremen loomed, specters of domination, each grasping long, wicked whips. These foremen were merciless. Their eyes gleamed with cruelty as they scanned the workers for the slightest sign of weakness. A stumble, a faltering breath, a pause to wipe sweat off the brow. These were sins punishable by the sting of the whip. The air crackled each time the leather lashed, cutting through fabric and flesh alike. The workers didn't curse those whips. They didn't dare. They barely even felt them anymore. It had been this way for years. The mine seemed like an eternal prison that none would escape. One particularly suffocating day, the silence of the mine was shattered. It wasn't the whips that broke it, nor the coughs of workers, nor the grinding of coal carts. It was something deeper, something unnatural. The ground trembled. At first, the workers thought it was just another collapse deep in the tunnels. Such disasters were common. But then the temperature plummeted. The air, once heavy with heat and soot, grew icy, and a sickly green mist slithered through the tunnels. The foremen yelled, cracking their whips harder. "Back to work!" they roared, though their voices wavered with unease. But the workers simply stopped, all of them. The pickaxes hung limply in their hands, and they stood frozen, staring into the shifting fog as glowing red eyes began to appear amid the darkness. The slow drip of water echoed louder, the rattle of coal carts seemed distant, and then, from the shadows they came. Twisted forms, neither beast nor spirit, emerged from the mist. Their shapes were indistinct, like black smoke given substance. Long limbs ended with jagged claws, and their hollow mouths gaped like endless voids. These were creatures born from the agony of the mine, the embodiment of every tear, every drop of blood, every whip that had ever struck living flesh. The foremen faltered, their arms still raised with whips in hand. What is this?" one of them stammered. One of the creatures turned toward him, its head tilting unnaturally as if hearing his voice gave it purpose. In the blink of an eye, it surged forward. The whip fell from his hand, clattering uselessly to the floor as the creature enveloped him in darkness. His screams echoed briefly, before dying out entirely, leaving only silence and a blood-red stain on the rock floor. The other foreman turned to run, but the creatures closed in on him too. It was clear there would be no escape. The workers stood motionless, watching as the creatures devoured their tormentors. Strangely, none of the creatures turned on them. Instead, the red eyes bore into the workers, their silent gazes communicating something unspoken but deeply understood. Suddenly, the mine began to crack apart. The ground beneath their feet split, and the jagged walls crumbled. A booming voice seemed to resonate from the creatures themselves, low, guttural, primal.
"Leave."
The workers didn't hesitate. They dropped their pickaxes, abandoned their carts, and fled toward the surface. The creatures melted back into the shadows, their job seemingly done. As the workers emerged into the sunlight for the first time in years, they turned back to see the mine entrance collapse entirely. A great plume of dust rose into the air as the ground sealed itself shut, leaving no trace of the hellish prison that had once existed. Freed from their torment, the workers stood dazed under the open sky. It felt strange to breathe air that wasn't thick with soot, to see the sun shining down instead of the flicker of lanterns. The youngest among them squinted at the light as though it might burn them. No one spoke. There were no words to explain what had happened, nor words to describe what they had seen. The mine was gone, the foremen were gone, and their suffering had ended, but at the hands of something beyond human comprehension. The creatures had taken their revenge. Whether they were summoned by the years of torment or were guardians that had slept below the surface, the only thing certain was that their prison was destroyed, and the horrors of the mine would never return. As the workers scattered, returning to whatever lives they had left, some could not forget the glowing red eyes that had watched over them on that fateful day. In time, they came to call the shadows something of their own, the avengers of the deep, the protectors of the downtrodden, and those who heard whispers of the mine's collapse would speak in hushed tones, careful not to disturb whatever forces might still stir in the depths of the earth.